In this 25th anniversary year of September 11th, the Tunnel to Towers Foundation continues to honor America's heroes. Heroes like Fire Lieutenant Michael Wells, who was inspired by 9/11 to serve his community. After 14 dedicated years of service, he lost his battle with occupational cancer, leaving behind his wife, Katie, and their 3 children. Tunnel to Towers honored Lieutenant Wells by paying off the family's mortgage in recognition of his sacrifices. Donate $11 monthly and amplify your impact with a car or land donation. Go to T2T.org.
The Rita Cosby Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. Breaking news.
And tonight on the Rita Cosby Show, a lot of news happening. King Charles, James Comey, Jimmy Kimmel, the list goes on and on. But in the last few minutes, some big war of words happening with President Trump and the German Chancellor. This is stunning. The Chancellor of Germany saying that the U.S. has been humiliated by the Iranian leadership. What is he talking about? I mean, is he going to the UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer's School of Etiquette? What is he talking about? We are eviscerating Iran. And yet the German Chancellor not giving the U.S. any credit, making it sound like Iran is the one in control. Well, in the last little bit, President Trump responding, saying he doesn't know what he is talking about. If Iran had a nuclear weapon, the whole world would be held hostage. I'm doing something with Iran right now that other nations or presidents should have done a long time ago. No wonder Germany is doing so poorly, both economically and otherwise. So President Trump putting the German Chancellor in his place. And of course, this comes after a really majestic day with King Charles on Capitol Hill and also at the White House. In the last little bit, at this state dinner that's taking place tonight at the White House, King Charles presented President Trump with a bell from the HMS Trump ship. I love this. This big bell from an old ship there from England saying, if you ever need to get a hold of us, just give me a ring, ring-a-ding-ding. But it's really beautiful to see the rapport with King Charles and President Trump. Obviously, a very different relationship than he has with the UK Prime Minister, who didn't come through on Iran when we needed him. You think about what a Neville Chamberlain that UK Prime Minister has been. And when I was listening today to King Charles, especially when he spoke on Capitol Hill, he was so eloquent. Everybody was standing for him, Democrats, Republicans. It was a beautiful sort of unifying moment. And his message was one of, we need to work together. It was a message of NATO needs to do more, but also we need to appreciate NATO. So it was beautiful in sort of both directions. Shared values, shared experiences, and also the eloquence of King Charles, who really just was such a diplomat today. It was a beautiful moment, and it was beautiful to see him and President Trump. Here is King Charles on Capitol Hill talking about how the world needs to come together at this very difficult time. Take a listen.
The story of the United Kingdom and the United States is at its heart a story of reconciliation, renewal, and remarkable partnership. From the bitter divisions of 250 years ago, we forged a friendship that has grown into one of the most consequential alliances in human history. I pray with all my heart that our alliance will continue to defend our shared values with our partners in Europe and the Commonwealth and across the world. And that we ignore the clarion calls to become ever more inward-looking. Mr. Speaker, Mr. Vice President, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, America's words carry weight and meaning, as they have since independence. The actions of this great nation matter even more. President Lincoln understood this so well with his reflection in the magisterial Gettysburg Address. that the world may little note what we say, but will never forget what we do. And so to the United States of America, on your 250th birthday, let our two countries rededicate ourselves to each other in the selfless service of our peoples and of all the peoples of the world. God bless the United States, and God bless the United Kingdom.
And he got a rousing applause. He looked great. He's going to be coming to New York tomorrow. He is going to be going to the 9/11 memorial. It'll be interesting. Mondani will be there with him and a lot of other dignitaries. It will definitely be one for the record books. Meantime, President Trump also had some good zingers today. You could tell he loved having King Charles there at the White House, talking about this special relationship between the president and the king. You could tell they really get along fabulously. They really enjoy each other. They appreciate each other. And President Trump had a really beautiful line. He's got the king sitting next to him there at the White House. And then he says, you know what? You meant a lot, not just to me, but you meant a lot to my mother. I love this line today. Take a listen.
My mother, I just see it so clearly. She loved, and I told the king this, she loved the royal family, and she loved the queen. And anytime the queen was involved in a ceremony or anything, my mother would be glued to the television, and she'd say, "Look, Donald, look how beautiful that is." She really did love the family, but I also remember her saying very clearly, "Charles, look, young Charles, he's so cute." My mother. My mother had a crush on Charles. Can you believe it? Amazing how, I wonder what she's thinking right now.
Breaking news.
And just a little bit ago, this just coming out from James Comey, the former FBI director, responding to now a second indictment against him. And the threat against the president is certainly a crime, and it comes from the 8647. Remember, stumbling on the beach, those shells that he said, oh yeah, I just happened to see them on the beach. I thought they were kind of cute. 8647. I think everybody knows what 8647 means. If you 86 something, it's getting rid of something. This guy also used to go after the mob. He knows what 86 means. It's not like a big surprise, but yet he wants us to think he's like Sergeant Schultz. I know nothing. I know nothing. And it's the same beach that also he stumbled upon the shells. Remember saying, vote for Kamala Harris. That is a very hot beach. I don't think I've ever seen a shell formation saying anything about Kamala or anything about President Trump. But now the Department of Justice is going after James Comey, saying that it was a threat to the President of the United States, a direct threat. And they're saying that that is indeed a crime. And James Comey just a little bit ago put out a video defending himself after this now second indictment. Here is James Comey putting it out, saying, I am innocent.
Well, they're back. This time about a picture of seashells on a North Carolina beach a year ago. And this won't be the end of it. But nothing has changed with me. I'm still innocent. I'm still not afraid. And I still believe in the independent federal judiciary, so let's go. But it's really important that all of us remember this is not who we are as a country. This is not how the Department of Justice is supposed to be. And the good news is we get closer every day to restoring those values. Keep the faith.
Keep the faith, everybody. Well, it's going to be interesting because apparently James Comey, there are reports tonight that he is going to turn himself in. There is an arrest warrant for him. And there's so many people on the Democratic side crying foul, saying, oh, this is terrible, this is lawfare. Somehow they didn't say anything when everything was happening against President Donald Trump. And I don't remember Trump ever stumbling upon seashells on the beach like this guy, who, again, seems to have the most busy beach of anything that I've ever seen. And the allegations are pretty serious. Todd Blanche, he's a guy who seems to kind of do his homework, and he believes that these charges will stick. He says it's early on, of course. And remember, he was charged before. Remember, there was an indictment last summer for lying to Congress. That got thrown out, really more of a technicality, because the interim U.S. attorney, they said, wasn't appointed lawfully, didn't have the right, Lindsay Halligan wasn't the right person to oversee it. Todd Blanche is clearly the acting U.S. attorney, and it also comes out of the Eastern District of North Carolina, because that's where the beach is with the seashells. That's why it's happening there, seashells by the seashore, just like that song. But here is Todd Blanche laying out the charges, and he says these are serious. So do you believe now that this is sort of the linchpin to James Comey? Because James Comey, of course, comes right out and says, oh, they're at it again. This is just so crazy. I just stumbled on this beach. I had no idea. I don't believe any of that is true, what he's saying. If I personally, my opinion, I find it hard to believe he would just stumble upon something like that on a beach. And I also find it hard to believe that he, A, didn't play some role in organizing it. B, he clearly knew what 8647 meant. He thought, oh, that's something kind of cute. That's what he's claiming. He sort of got the Jimmy Kimmel defense, because we're going to talk about that later. But here is Todd Blanche laying off the charges against, unbelievable, the former director of the FBI.
A threat to take the life of and to inflict bodily harm upon the President of the United States. Count 2. Same day, May 15th, 2025, that the defendant, James Comey, knowingly and willfully transmitting in interstate commerce a communication that contained a threat to kill the President of the United States. Both of these counts carry a maximum term of imprisonment of 10 years. So I think it's fair to say that threatening the life of anybody is dangerous and potentially a crime. Threatening the life of the President of the United States will never be tolerated by the Department of Justice. Over the past year, this department has charged dozens of cases involving threats against all sorts of individuals. We take these seriously, every single one of them.
And that's why they have to look into all of these things. We just had a president who had a third assassination attempt against him over the weekend. And yet you've got the former FBI director essentially saying 8647. What does that do if somebody's got a screw loose and they're looking at somebody like that saying, well, the FBI director said this? It gets in their head. You also have people like JB Pritzker, and you've got a whole bunch of other people coming out today. You've got Joy Reid, who actually has the audacity to say that the event was staged. And I want to go to this. This is Cut 30 with Joy Reid, because this just came out. She's actually claiming that these were set up assassinations, that this is just all smoke and mirrors, pomp and circumstance, like I guess the dinner with King Charles. All just a beautiful show. But she believes that this assassination attempt was set up essentially to try to create sympathy, if you will. And that maybe Trump actually worked with the Russians. This is a doozy. I've heard some wild ones, but this woman is nuts. Here is the former MSNBC host, Joy Reid. Take a listen.
Don't ask any questions, even though there's just odd things that keep happening around Trump. And we know that Viktor Orban, allegedly, according to Washington Post reporting, there was a plot by the Russians to stage an assassination, fake assassination for Orban. So all of this throws in together. You're like, when something seems too perfect, people, they don't believe in it. And Donald Trump now again gets victimized by an alleged would-be assassin in front of the perfect witnesses, the press.
That's Amazing. So what? Trump worked with the Russians to create a fake attack on him and somehow create this dynamic. So what? The world would have sympathy on him? I don't think he needs that. I don't think anybody would wish that. And in fact, earlier today, we were talking about with Judge Jeanine about the evidence against this guy. I mean, have these people truly lost their mind? And you know what's really infuriating, guys? In the last few days, to hear the Democrats, they are not only doubling down, they're tripling down. They're saying, oh, no, yeah, I meant exactly what I said. And Trump needs to essentially look in the mirror. They're not apologizing for anything they said. They're just saying, oh, no, we said stuff, but also Trump says stuff. And many of them are even going, what, me? I didn't say anything. I didn't mean anything. And yet we have the videotape. You can hear them. You hear the audio. You hear it over and over again. And some of them are still using the Nazi Hitler line. It is so reckless. It is so dangerous. And to me, at a time right now where the world is divided and the threats could not be higher, you got these Iranian sleeper cells all over the place too. This is scary, and they are playing with fire. 1-800-848-9222. We'll take your calls when we come back on The Rita Cosby Show.
The Rita Cosby Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. It's the Rita Cosby Show.
And let's go to your calls, 1-800-848-9222. Let's go to Henry in Manhattan on line 4. Go ahead, Henry. Your thoughts tonight.
Hi, Rita. Comey's never going to learn his lesson. I mean, he's so stupid. He's going to cost so much of a bill for his lawyers, especially that guy who's defending him, Fitzgerald, whatever. I mean, they fired his daughter. I mean, where's he going to stop this guy? He's not going to have any money to defend himself. It's going to cost millions of dollars. This guy, he is angry at Trump because Trump fired him when he was in California. And he's got this thing in him, and he just doesn't know when to stop. I'm sure his wife is telling him we're going to run out of money. Where's he going to have the money to pay all this thing?
It's a great point, because you're right. He's still going to have to go through the legal processes no matter where this goes. But you're right. He's had it out for Trump. And you're the former FBI director. I'm sorry. I don't think anybody buys that you stumble on a beach and say 8647. I think that's reprehensible.
The Rita Cosby Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. Rita Cosby is on. The Rita Cosby Show presents Back the Blue.
And this Back the Blue segment coming from Bedford, New Hampshire, where a 51-year-old resident was driving an electric car that crashed into a toll booth on the Everett Turnpike. It turns out that another vehicle carrying actually the New Hampshire governor came upon the crash shortly thereafter, and a state trooper assigned to her security detail observed the driver of the electric car was still trapped inside, of which was now on fire. So the New Hampshire State Police said that the trooper, without hesitation, recognized it was a very serious crash and that someone was still in the vehicle. He pulled up, he immediately got out, ran over to assist, and he pulled the person out through the window along with a couple of bystanders who also stopped to help. The governor there saying it was truly teamwork, and thanks to the trooper on my security detail and the bystanders who stepped up to help this horrific scene. Thank goodness the driver is expected to make a full recovery, receive some pretty serious injuries, but the 51-year-old driver is expected to survive. Thanks to the great men and women in blue. Well, we are talking about the rhetoric coming from Democrats, especially after this third assassination attempt against President Trump. It's absolutely horrific. And there's so many questions now today. We still don't know a lot of details about this case, but we do know that the Democrats are refusing to look inward. In fact, they're doubling or tripling down on their rhetoric. And some of it is just not just nasty, it is downright dangerous. Take a listen to what JB Pritzker, remember, this is after the assassination, and JB Pritzker, again, who is the governor of Illinois, coming forward yet again to slam President Trump. They're not backing away. This is why I said to you guys last night, I am really worried where we're headed. We're headed in a really dangerous direction. That you've got individuals like JB Pritzker and others who refuse to even acknowledge that their rhetoric may be inciting people or maybe even incendiary to begin with. They won't even acknowledge that they're reckless. They won't acknowledge that it's dangerous. They will simply say that we're just speaking what we feel. I don't know what you're talking about. Who knows? It's not a big deal. It is. And I actually think it's reprehensible. And I do believe it's inciting crazy people like this guy, Cole Allen, who went with obviously horrific attentions there at the White House Correspondents' Dinner, planning to kill the president and members of his cabinet. It doesn't get scarier and it doesn't get worse. And here is JB Pritzker. Listen to what he said today about President Trump. He is not backing away, and this is a disgrace.
Some of your critics may point to what you said in the State of the State last year when you compared the Trump administration to the rise of Nazis. What would you say to that?
Well, Manu, remember what I was talking about was the fact that a constitutional republic was torn apart in 53 days in Germany in the 1930s, and that we need to watch out for that in this country. That is what I was talking about. And we've seen it, by the way, that speech was given in February of 25. I think over the last year, much of what I said has been proven to be true, that the institutions of this democracy are being attacked by the Republicans and by Donald Trump.
That's amazing. Most of it has been proven to be true. That's a reprehensible comment, and it is obviously completely untrue. But yet the Democrats, they will do anything. I really do. They become so extreme. It's an election year, and they are willing to say anything that they think their voters want to hear. They're willing to do anything to drive to the election booth voters that they believe they're inciting. Good and bad. They don't seem to really care, and that's the frightening thing. And listen to Don Lemon. Of course, that's the guy who was with the group, remember, in the church in Minneapolis when they terrorized and really frightened all of the different patrons. Well, here is Don Lemon talking about Donald Trump. And again, this is after the latest assassination attempt.
Words have consequences. Rhetoric really matters, and I believe that genuinely across the board. And that's not a one-sided principle. It applies to everyone. But I cannot say with a straight face, and nobody can say that with a straight face in the world that we live in right now, that Democrats saying Trump is terrible for this country is the same thing as Donald Trump standing in front of a crowd on January 6th and telling them to march to the Capitol and fight like hell. I cannot say those things are equivalent because they are not. I am so sick of false equivalence. It drives me crazy because that is bull. Because these things are not equivalent.
Wow. Don Lemon needs to get some behavioral counseling. I mean, that's like a rough one. I mean, it was like bleep, bleep, bleep. He sounds like his blood pressure is about to pop. That's not good. 1-800-848-9222. 1-800-848-9222. And listen to this New York Times contributing op-ed writer. He goes a lot further.
I think most of the country is just done. We're like, mother effer, just die. Just leave. Just let the Grim Reaper come in and take you from your cankles. I think people are sick and tired. What we predicted while we're on that street on Saturday says, I was talking to some journalists. I'm like, by Tuesday, people will move on. No one's going to give a
That is frightening. Let the Grim Reaper come. Is he going to the Jimmy Kimmel writing school? That's what it sure feels like. These people have lost their values. They've lost their soul. And I am really worried where we are as a country because they're not backing away. You would have thought they would have said, oh, I'm sorry, I'm going to try to tone down my rhetoric. No, they're seeming to say, no, too bad. We're going to kind of keep saying whatever we feel like saying. And in fact, they're even, quote, blaming the victim shaming. They're going that far as well. 1-800-848-9222. 1-800-848-9222. Let's go to Joaquin in Pennsylvania on line 4. Go ahead, Joaquin.
Good evening, Rita. I'm a bit fired up as I listen to all this stuff. Oh, and something, I'm sorry to say, I kind of disagree. King Charles is not my majesty. So I think he's part of the problem, unfortunately, that has allowed, is allowing his country to be ruined. But anyway, we have a real problem.
By the way, Joaquin, and I'm going to defend the king because I actually wish that he was the prime minister too, because I think the UK would be in a lot better shape if he could, because he seems to have a lot more common sense than Keir Starmer, that's for sure.
I know, but I've seen his speeches at the COP or whatever they call it, a conference of parties, 26, where he said that the biggest threat was climate change.
Yeah, and he did get a little bit into that. I mean, he is. I agree with you on that. It's not like, and by the way, you're never going to see a monarch in England, say what climate change? It's a hoax. I mean, that they're obviously left leaning, but he sure seems a lot more reasonable than Keir Starmer. I'll give him that.
Yeah. No. All right. Okay. I'll give you that. Rita.
All right. But now let's go.
I really want to get onto our problems here.
Yeah, and we got a lot.
Our problems are even much more deep rooted than just the left. Unfortunately, we have an anti-American, a deep establishment in this country. And the prime examples of this are really like Mike Pence and Liz Cheney and people, from that side who are anti-Trump. And quite frankly, I'm sorry, but Mike Pence really stabbed Donald Trump in the back, and he had a totally different agenda. And everything that Donald Trump stands for is pro-sovereign United States of America. And, I really want to get on after Stan last night because I hate to say it, guys like Stan, they have a bad case of, if you want to call it penis envy or something, they hate the guy because they're jealous of him, But when you really look at what he's doing everything that is pro-American, sovereignty, the Constitution of the United States of America. How can you hate that? You can only hate him if you really hate this country that badly.
That's a good point, Joaquin, because he really truly does represent America, and obviously America first, and also very much symbolizes the American values. And look what he's done. You recall, obviously, you were listening to Stan. And Stan, I brought up, Stan, you're Jewish. And I said, hey, what are you doing? He's going into Iran. He's the only one who had the guts. That's what he was saying to the German Chancellor tonight. Like, shame on you for scolding me about Iran. I'm the only one who's had the guts to go after them. And anybody, not just Jewish, but every American and everybody who cares about freedom in the world should appreciate that. What, are you supposed to sit on your laurels and wait for them to get a nuclear weapon? It is this Trump derangement syndrome, Joaquin. And I think we're in a really dangerous place, though, because after the assassination, you sort of expect, okay, someone's going to come forward and say, you know what? Maybe I'm going to set the tone to be more civil. I'm going to try to do these things. They're not saying that. They're actually saying, no, too bad. He deserves it. Not deserves, the shooting, although some of them have almost gone that far, but deserves all this horrible rhetoric. And they don't even claim that there's any connection between their rhetoric and a lot of these loonies. Many of them, it seems to be in their party, that are causing these horrific attacks.
That's exactly right. And again, the attacks against Donald Trump really are a symbol of attacks against America, of what we stand for. And this is what really troubles me, and we don't have enough media, on our side to go out and, present the truth out there. All the media is so skewed. I don't know how this has happened, but even if you just listen to a regular, music radio station, rock and roll radio station, and you hear the news in between, and you hear the comments that the people make, everybody has just gone so far to the left, and we don't have any real representation except, places like WABC. And unfortunately, it's just not a big enough platform that we need to have more out there to get the message of, America out to the people. And, when it comes down to, being civil, we need to become more uncivil on our side and to really call these people out, because they're the ones who are the Nazis. They're going to bring in the tyranny to this country. And, it's just, it just makes me nuts when I listen to how people are so easily just brainwashed into this whole agenda. And it really comes right down to education and media. We really should be boycotting everything, that's on TV, all these actors and whatever else that is so skewed left, and then everybody else wants to follow what they say, because people are just sheeple when it comes right down to it. At the moment right now, we have half a country left is really what it comes down to. Half the country is, pro-America, and the other half of the country hates this place.
Yeah, and I've never felt that way, Joaquin, but I agree with you. And I think you hit it on the head. You brought up academia, because I think these colleges so much are like cauldrons of hate. And we saw it during all these pro-Palestinian, pro-Hamas protests. We see it, I think, every day by the vitriol and the rhetoric coming from a lot of young people. And there have been all these polls of late that I've seen in the last few days about this sort of assassination culture, if you will, and this shaming culture. And predominantly it's young people that seem to think it's okay. Some of them are chilling, like, do you think it's okay to use violence against the president? Predominantly the overwhelming group, it's young people in college age. So there's something really wrong with these colleges. And there's something wrong, as you just said, they're listening to certain media, and then they're going to certain groups, certain events. You could almost see it quite a bit with this Cole Allen guy, too. He seemed like he came from, maybe it seemed like a good home, a Christian home and all that other stuff, and then got into these groups and into these chat rooms and all these things. And it just blew up. And you wonder how these people get, quote, radicalized, if you will, in this country. And it's a big problem that we got to deal with. Joaquin, thank you very much. The other thing I want to play for you guys, this Congressman Dan Golden, a congressman, Democrat of New York, and he even went so far as to blame President Trump, essentially, for the assassination attempt against his life. I couldn't believe this. Here it is.
We know what Donald Trump's rhetoric leads to, because we know many times over how his followers use violence when they follow him. Now, that does not excuse rhetoric that would otherwise call for violence by anybody. The point is that we do need to dial it down on all sides.
So let's play that again. He sort of is victim shaming. I want to play it again because that's kind of a stunning comment.
We know what Donald Trump's rhetoric leads to, because we know many times over how his followers use violence when they follow him. Now, that does not excuse rhetoric that would otherwise call for violence by anybody. The point is that we do need to dial it down on all sides.
We know what Donald Trump's rhetoric leads to. That's the response from a sitting member of Congress right after this assassination attempt. That's a pretty ugly smear. And I've heard some doozies. Let's go to Norm on line 4. Norman, your thoughts?
Yeah, my thoughts are it's pretty extreme thoughts, but I think that the Democrats and their allies in the media are creating an atmosphere to kill Trump.
I do too.
I
actually do too.
Until they eventually do that. And if they do that, they will unleash a civil war in this country, because I think things are coming apart. And I think that I hope it doesn't, but I'm starting to think that that's what's going to happen.
It's a pretty scary premise when you say that, but I hear where you're going, because to me, they seem to no regrets. They seem to feel like it's almost like he deserved it, seems to be the attitude from them. And I just played you like Dan Goldman's comment. It's like, well, this is what his rhetoric leads to. I mean, that sure sounds to me like, what do you expect, President Trump? Like blaming, like victim shaming. Like, when you say certain things, it's going to lead to this, as opposed to any of their rhetoric being responsible. And Dan Goldman has had some really vile comments against President Trump. JB Pritzker, it's like they almost as a party, Norm, decided after it, how do we respond? And internally they said, don't back away, keep the heat on. Real quick, your thoughts, Norm.
Yeah, I mean, I think the deflection, they're deflecting on anything about, the Secret Service and it's Trump's words. They're trying, they put these moral equivalencies, and they're trying to deflect in the left media.
Yeah, and sadly, Norm, the media is allowing it.
He's allowing it. Yes.
That's the problem. It's sort of part of it that they're not saying, huh? I mean, you look at it, if they put somebody on there, often a Republican, they go, whoa, just the way the 60 Minutes handled President Trump. But yet when it's a Democrat, it's like, oh, okay. You hear somebody say this horrible vitriol and you go, okay, thank you, Congressman, for coming on. I would go, what? Everybody, we're going to continue your calls after the break. 1-800-848-9222. And you're listening to The Rita Cosby Show.
The Rita Cosby Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. This is The Rita Cosby Show.
And by the way, President Trump is going to be meeting with the Artemis II astronauts tomorrow. I love that. And King Charles is going to be in New York. He and Zoran Mandani will be there at 9/11 at the memorial there, laying a wreath, because there were many British citizens that were also who died on 9/11. So I think it's beautiful that King Charles is there. It'll be interesting to see what kind of reception Mandani gets too there at that moment, because there are a lot of people who are uncomfortable, especially considering he's friends with Hassan Piker, who says America deserved 9/11. 1-800-848-9222. 1-800-848-9222. Let's go to Steve in Virginia, line 4. Go ahead, Steve.
Hi, Rita. I'm an angry listener.
Oh, good. Okay. And I'm a happy host. So go ahead.
First, let me say that I live my life offline by choice. I don't watch the news, and I have no idea who you are apart from this show.
Okay. Well, that's good. That's good. All right. Go ahead.
You are an important and bright national voice for these times, and I encourage and support you as I do President Trump. My thoughts tonight are of this most recent attempt on the president's life as it concerns the performance of the Secret Service. And I just want to offer you, if I may, Rita, one fact and one comment. The fact is that Margaret Thatcher, speaking of the king being...
Steve, two things. You got to get to the point quicker. I'm going to hold you over because you gave me a compliment, but you got to make sure it's tight and quick. And everybody, we're going to continue because we are going to talk more about what happened at the White House Correspondents' Dinner. Steve, you're going to have a few seconds when we get back.
Thanks for listening to The Rita Cosby Show. You can hear The Rita Cosby Show weeknights at 10 on 77 WABC. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?